Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare.
Understanding of these initial level, intermediate level, and then this sort of the greatest scope is just basically our motivations. So some people, typically in this tradition, a lot of people in a Buddhist culture, they're kind of thinking, okay, well, I want to make sure I at least have a good next life. I don't want to screw it up. I want to make sure, because they're all born into a culture that embraces rebirth. It's just how you grow up. Everything's, of course, you were born like that's the culture. That's the way I think. And so a lot of people towards the end of life get a little concerned about how they've been living, start thinking about that. So there's this initial level where people are just really thinking, I want to, be a good person, have a good life, have a good next life. Intermediate's one that says, well, okay, I'd like to be liberated. I'd like to be free of all these afflictions. I'd like to achieve nirvana, be free of conditioned existence. So a lot of people will engage in the path of that kind of motivation. And that would be the intermediate. You should probably take that off for the moment. And then we have the great scope, which is be a bodhisattva path. And so with that bodhisattva path, it's not only do I want to be free of suffering, I want to help everybody else. So I want everybody to be free. And it's a path of Buddhahood, so being a Buddha, which is a little different than just being free in nirvana. So Tibetan Buddhists, pretty much all bodhisattva path, want to be a Buddha, want to help all beings be free of suffering. So it'd be called bodhisattva path there, and they use these specific practices in Vajrayana to really take it all the way. So those are sort of three motivations typically taught, so intermediate and so forth. I always include a fourth, which I think is where most people are, which is I'd like to have a good life and not suffer so much, have a little more joy, understand myself and how the world works a little better, and really see if I can reduce a lot of unnecessary mental, emotional affliction, which I think is where most humans really are, even though they might be thinking bodhisattva. It's like, I want free all sentient beings, but mostly, I want there to be okay in my relationship, be a good parent, do well, not suffer so much. And so these teachings are basically kind of covering, each of these levels. And the thing that's really nice is, regardless of the level, these same practices will help you be a better human being with less suffering. Could be someone who could liberate themselves from unnecessary afflictions, maybe achieve nirvana or full Buddhahood. And so very much as we engage in these, it's really to explore what's good for you, what works, makes sense. And don't try to exaggerate where you are. It's okay to be where we are. The vast majority of Buddhist teachings are just being adopted by modern Western psychology as well, and are able to really recognize that 80% of it's just normal mental, emotional stuff that humans go through. And you got a little extra stuff where, like about reincarnation, rebirth, and ways of looking at things that might be a little different. So, having said that, now I'll get back to the text. So we went through a few of the initial level topics, and I'm just going to kind of tie it together. I'm going to get on my spectacles. All right, a bridge between the initial and intermediate levels. We are now ready to move on to meditations on the second section of Lam Rim, the intermediate level or medium scope. But first, let's review the key points of the initial level, the small scope meditations. This will help you understand how they lay the foundation for and connect to the intermediate level meditations. As explained earlier, all the Lam Rim topics are essential practices for someone wishing to attain enlightenment, and the earlier ones must be learned and practiced prior to the later ones. I'll pop up here. Okay. Gaining insights into the initial level topics gives us firm grounding to appreciate and realize those of the intermediate and advanced levels. They're like the steps of a ladder or staircase, or the different levels of an education system where a student must graduate from primary school before entering secondary school and so on. It's somewhat different, however, with the Lam Rim because you can learn and meditate on all the topics from the beginning, familiarizing yourself with the entire path right from the start. What you can't do is skip over any of them thinking you don't need it. Following review can be used as a meditation, starting as usual with the preliminary practices and concluding with a dedication, or just read through them slowly and contemplatively. So, it's nice to have a map, right? Sometimes you're going somewhere. You get somewhere and it's like, I'm in a new area. What's the map? Where do I get to go? And I think the best part of the Lam Rim that lays everything out is just, we can kind of look at the full picture, get a good view, kind of see where we are on it. But it's nice to know where we're going. And so this is that process of laying it all out. I've actually had friends, they've been Buddhists for a lot of years, and various lineages. And, it's so easy to get caught up in a sutra or a practice, and we don't have the whole sort of view, where are we going? What's it about? How does it work? And so it's nice. It's just, okay, here's the path. And so taking a little time to explore the whole path and then have a primary focus of just where we're at, but continuing to kind of get a bigger view of the whole thing. And so that's the invitation here. But what Buddhism, especially in our tradition, does so well is it makes you review again and again and again. And which is, some people are like, really? Am I back on this? And then the question is, well, do you know it? No, what are those 10 things? Or what is that 6 things, And so it's nice to review. I had this is the way Tibetans do this, is like you memorize a text, like you can, that big, whatever, 1,500 pages, something. They memorize it. And they're actually memorizing texts when they're young and they don't even know what it means. It's phonetic, you can sound it out. So, and then there's sort of a rhythm. And so as little kids, they're memorizing text, pages and pages of text. Imagine how boring that could be to memorize a bunch of stuff you don't even know what it means, but you got a rhythm. And, but they're engaged in that. And then as they move into their training and they're being taught and they understand what it means, they can draw from memory verses and lines. I mean, it's really quite phenomenal. And, my teacher, Geshe Gelsen, the translator, would say things like, and Geshe, quoting from his memory, recites these texts. That's something he learned like 40 years ago, like I didn't, I didn't think about it until later when I was at the monastery. I memorized it from reading it a few minutes ago, like I would do. And so they have this phenomenal, way of engaging with the teachings, and they memorize it, and then they we'll take something and like really unpack it. What's this mean? Do I understand? So we have 3 wisdoms: hearing a teaching, and contemplating and analyzing a teaching, really picking it apart. And then once you have some sense of realization, then you meditate on that realization and you let it sink in. So the idea is we're really, getting from an intellectual idea to something I know. It makes sense. It's not arbitrary. It's not faith in a sense of blind faith. It's a faith that I've tested, I've checked it, holds up, makes sense, and I've applied it. It seems to work. I got it. So there's no rush. We're just taking a look at things. And so here, even though they have you go through each of these meditations, you get to this point, and then you say, okay, from this point on, every time you sit down and meditate, review the path. So you're just kind of, okay, what's the view? And so we had this one guy who's funny. We have this text, and we were going through, it was a little study group. And liberation in the palm of your hand. And so we would meet once a week. We got permission. We could meet once a week, and we just kind of study it on our own, read it, kind of talk about it. And if we had any questions, we'd ask our teacher. And, like we could write it down, we could ask him. So this one guy he was waiting for this course, man. He was like, I've read the book. I want to get into this. We're going to do this. And he showed up, and we'd spend an hour and a half on one page. And the first 4 days of the 28 days is all preliminary. And so he's waiting for day 5, And then we go back and come back, we do another page, talk about that, We might get through page 2, And so, he's like, it's preliminary stuff, and long story short, we went through the first chapter. We were looking at it, and we all thought, we need to do that again. He just, his mind just, and it was hard to watch. But he survived. And he was a pretty regular student. He was good, but it's just that lesson that, as oftentimes we can want to be somewhere we're not, or we want to just read something, think we know it, and then move on, but do you really know it? And this is this very patient sort of movement from having some very brief intellectual knowledge that doesn't last very long to an embodied understanding of what's being taught and debate around it, So it's slow down, take your time, let's unpack this. So it's really nice to have that review. And so on the retreat, we talked about clearer comprehension, which is really the essence of living mindfully. Essence of living mindful is if you could have these 4 components of clear comprehension simultaneously, it just changes the whole world that we live in. And they are, in the order that they're taught typically is knowing what the purpose is of what you're doing and why you're doing it, what you're doing and why you're doing it. So we do a lot of things, get in a car, drive somewhere, I'm in a car, I am driving a car. Why am I, where am I going? What's the purpose? If I'm doing laundry or whatever it is, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Is it helpful? Is it productive? Will I feel better about who I am, So at the start of the meditation, I said, let's be clear about our purpose. Why are you meditating? What's its purpose? Why would you choose to make this a practice? Is it helpful? And so having that. And then the second point is, I like to use the word appropriateness because it's suitable. Is what I'm doing actually meeting the purpose? Am I responding to my partner in a way that really will suit the purpose of me being a better partner? Am I responding? Am I engaging appropriately? That will meet the needs of the purpose of whatever it is I'm doing. Third is, am I aware while I'm doing it? So we might have the purpose, we might know what we're doing, and get 10 minutes of that, my mind's gone, I've got my next plans for the next 2 weeks going on. And so maintaining an awareness, an embodied awareness of what I'm doing through the process. And then the fourth is clear comprehension about wisdom, about really not having cognitive distortions, thinking errors, misperceptions of myself and the situation. So really coming from a place of knowing this interdependent life and the way that we're engaging it. And so being grounded in wisdom, being aware of what I'm doing, having an awareness of why I'm doing it, and then whether what I'm doing is suitable, really benefiting that. The way we often teach it in our mindfulness course is aware of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what's my motivation, is it beneficial or not, is it based in reality. So I'm saying that a lot of people on retreat, we spent a whole bunch of days on these skills, is because as this transition of the text, what they're reminding us to do is be clear about why we're doing what we're doing. And so this little review is just a reminder to get real clarity about why we are doing this practice or why we are engaged in this part of the journey of the path. Just being very clear, getting some wisdom, clarity, got the map, and these are the practices. So fits very nicely, I thought. And as always, if any of you online or in person have a question or a comment, I love to be interrupted. It's so much better to have a dialogue than me just blah, blah, blah. So, hang on here. I got way off in this book here.
I have a question.
No, I really didn't mean what I said. I was just humoring you. Yeah, go ahead, Gavin. I was just let me get for some reason my page
So you
jumped.
don't want to be interrupted.
I do right now.
Okay. Perfect. It seems like, going through those 4 questions, while they're really helpful, it seems like there's a lot of cognition, kind of nuts and bolts, pistons and drive shafts kind of like going on in that. Can you speak to your own personal experience with these 4 questions and a way, do you find that you can distill them down, or can you touch back to the felt sense versus we already spend so much time inside of our heads thinking about what the hell we're doing and why the hell we're doing it? Is there a way?
I would argue that point. We think a lot. Rarely do we actually think about whether what we're doing is actually meaningful.
Yeah. So regarding that, shifting from thinking a lot about background noise to thinking a lot about purpose and intention. What's your own personal experience with wrestling with that, with an already busy mind? And now you got 4 questions on top of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's our mind is so distracted so often in doing all those things you talk about. It's rarely embodied in what we're doing. And that's really where we're starting. Just, do I know that I'm drinking a cup? And how much are we doing that we're not aware of, or why we're doing it? And so the best way to begin is, we begin our day, which this will kind of start like remembering. Here's a day that's never coming again in your life. Here it is. I woke up. I'm alive. And then taking a little time in the morning to set that wisdom piece. I have this rare and precious life. This opportunity is coming only once. Taking a little time to set the GPS for my day, the map, the internal map. You know, what are the qualities I want to cultivate today? You know, what's something I can work on? Like maybe I want to be loving and kind today. Right? So I'm going to cultivate loving kindness towards everyone I come in contact with. So training the mind, a little meditation. So our practice is, you know, we set some good motivation, we meditate for a little bit, and we go through the rare and precious life that we have, you know, these thoughts. And what that says is it's front loading, it's grounding it. I don't need to keep thinking of it all day. It's just being real clear about, you know, the fact I may not be here tomorrow. And what's actually important, what's a priority in my life. And so you do all that ahead of time in the morning, set that, load, you know, the GPS. So when you are engaged, then the practice is trying to be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it. And somewhere along the line, you might notice that you'd like to be healthier and fit as you're eating your third piece of apple pie. And you go, you know, this probably is not going to get me, you know, the kind of life I want. Or, you know, with my wife, you know, I have a practice where, you know, I just watch what I just like adoring her. You know, I just, wow, when she does these things, you know, and how she treats people, and I watch that, and you know, in the morning I kind of think about her good qualities on purpose, you know, and I see her do things, how she interacts, and you know, I'm aware of what it does to my mind, the relationship, and so there's a driver in the car. I'm just not in the car with my mind driving me around all day. And that's kind of the clear comprehension, is that you can know all these things simultaneously, just because you're driving the car now, right? And of all the things we do each day that we're not aware of, how many automatic choices are we making that really don't support, you know, the qualities I want to cultivate? So it's really catching yourself in those things. And so initially it's little steps, you know, little steps of, like we have our mindfulness program, just check in 3 times a day. Just stop, take a breath, reset. Hey, what was your intention this morning? You were going to be patient. How's that working out? Well, I wasn't so patient with Jimmy, you know, I jot that down. But I was pretty patient with so-and-so, okay, you know, and then 2:00, you know, I have another check-in. So it's kind of checking in like that. And then what happens is we start noticing some of the habits, actions, and tendencies. We call it your HAT, H-A-T, habits, attitudes, tendencies. Might discover I have the wrong hat on quite frequently. You know, got the wrong attitude for this activity. And so you can, you know, put the other hat on. And this would be more suitable in this situation. And what's really nice is that if we have a good morning practice, a good shamatha practice, you know, just stabilizing mind, setting intention, having gone through the rare and precious life, understanding karma, all the things that are kind of reviewed here, then my day becomes my vipassana. You know, I'm not going to do a vipassana meditation. Vipassana, by the way, is insight, understanding. I start understanding how I'm reacting, and I really didn't say that in the right way. But with the grandfather of mindfulness, of clear comprehension, you know, it's keeping the spoiled little child John, you know, from poking myself too much. And so it's not like I have this teaching now, I'm going to try to do all this. It's much more of, you know, let's take a little time in the morning. Let's, you know, remember, get clear, kind of ground into wisdom. and pick a specific thing that I want to work on, like patience or loving kindness, and then just kind of be as mindful as I can. And then check in a few times, kind of reset. And then the evening, it's nice to review, you know, and then dedicate and so forth. And then if I'm purifying at the end of the day, I know what I'm purifying because I was there. Too often we get to the end of the day and we're trying to look back and go, you know, what did I do? You know. So this constant flow, so clear comprehension, it's actually living mindfully. But as we practice, we may notice that we're more able to know what we're doing. You know, that's awesome. If I actually know what I'm doing, that's great. Yeah, basic research on that is that it's the single most determinant factor on your mental emotional well-being is simply knowing what you're doing. Yeah, which, you know, you sit there and go, really? Like doing the dishes or what? But what happens is if I'm focused on what I'm doing, you know what my mind is not focused on? Worries, fears, concerns, planning, stress. If you're actually attending to what you're doing, your mind is not doing all those other things. So whether it's washing the dishes, now if you're actually then bring this other piece, like I'm washing the dishes, what an opportunity to be a good partner in my relationship. I'm doing the dishes, or if I'm at a gathering, I get to do the dishes. And now not only am I aware that I'm doing dishes, I'm kind of noting that that's helping me be the kind of person I want to be. And that's kind of cool. Dishes pretty interesting. Don't try to wash my frickin' dishes. I'm doing them, you know. And you're just like, wow. Then it becomes very interesting, you know, and motivating. So, but yeah, we just really start with that base of, can I be aware more often of what I'm doing? Then I might go, what's the purpose? Yeah, it's nice to have clean dishes, you know, big old piled up sink. I used to let them pile up. And then it gets overwhelming, you know. You just think, wow, I do them, and you think, man, if I just do them and they're dirty, like they don't pile up. And then I pile them up again, you know. And you're like, wow, I gotta do that. You're like, wow, that's not so bad, you know. And after a while, you start thinking, I may actually start doing them as they do. It's funny how long a lesson it could be, because habits are so interesting that way. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is, just because we know better, we don't do better. I mean, our habits are hard. You know, they're just so hardwired. Here's the healthy thing I know I should do. Yeah, maybe one day I'll do it too. I don't know. What I got fascinated with in my life, especially over these years of training, is that like I'll like be like really right on, solid practice, good state of mind, doing things well. I got this, and yeah, it kind of fade off a little bit, you know, ebb and flow. And I stopped doing something that, you know I used to do really well, and you know, I'm going to do it tomorrow, and I don't. And then, but how thoroughly convinced my mind can be that, well, yeah, but really I'll do it tomorrow. Like I actually believe, like I'm gonna, you know, and it's fascinating. It's so convincing because you know I know I've done it before. I've done it before many times. So why wouldn't I do it tomorrow? Yeah, you know, something comes up, and then I'll still like think I can do it tomorrow, even though then there's like weeks that go by and I haven't. Yeah.
I have a similar experience, and I'll say, oh, I'm gonna, let's say it's a sadhana practice. I'm like, you know, I really would love to go and do that sadhana. And I'll say, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And sure enough, I'll go and do it tomorrow. And then I won't do it again for a month or two.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yep, I'm gonna definitely start doing that every day tomorrow.
Every day.
Nail it the first day. Gosh, that was really nice. Guess I don't need to do that again. But, you know, it's really funny. I noticed that about my own tendencies, especially if it's a practice like a Nandra practice or something that you used to do religiously every morning at 5 a.m. or whatever. and you're like, I know I can do it. And then you try to do it again, and you're like, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
It's just, I want to sleep.
Yeah. Were you guys able to hear all that online? Okay, pretty good. Yeah, the shotgun mic, so I probably should turn it. But they're saying they could. You have a good projected voice. Yeah. And this is the trickiness, and that's where wisdom's so helpful, is that I can catch myself lying to myself after a while. Because, I was able to do it before, but I'm not capable now, which is fascinating, right? I have some resistance. And so this sort of, just clarity around these choices we make and how we can kind of drift off doing some things that were really meaningful. But they were a good idea at the time. So if we can really bring, what we call joyous effort to the things that we know. And what happens is if I'm paying attention to them when I'm doing them and I have the purpose, I see its benefit, I get the reward, which is much different than I have a commitment, an obligation. I'd rather be doing anything else, maybe even trimming my toenails than this thing, I'm all excited because I finally trimmed my toenails yesterday. So, I was putting it up. Because there's so much to do. Yeah. So, we're talking about one of the cool things. Yeah. And all those are things that help us be the person we want to be. And so what is it that's preventing me from doing healthy, meaningful things to help me be the person I want to be? We turn it into work instead of how wonderful I'm doing things that help me be the person I want to be, which is pretty cool. It's in alignment with my values. It's wow. And so that's the big challenge. The habits turn it into work, and then it's an obligation, then there's no reward, and then it's an effort instead of. So that's where the freshness of really attending to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it again, turns it back into wonder and interest, and instead of telling myself I was going to do that. Oh man, it's 5 a.m. I sleep in. Just all that other stuff kicks in. So really keeping it fresh with what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how it supports my life, and then we actually get the reward system back. Yeah. So real helpful in that way.
I can see how even the questions, those 4 questions, while at one level I do think that it's there's some cognitive energy,
Which is not all bad. Cognitive
isn't all
energy is a
bad,
good
right.
thing to have some cognitive energy.
Yeah, especially if it's in the service of freshness and curiosity. I think that's the piece that I wasn't hearing, but I understand it's the idea is to arouse that curiosity and that joy and the freshness, and making it not just the sadhana that I always do, but an opportunity to shed identity and rest in a different way, which is nice. So thanks for that answer.
So we'll take a little peek at, we're not going to go into every single topic here, but I think that going through the title, since we've done this already, and it gives a good overview, I think lays a good base for the practice. But I think the first one's very important. So, as we have moved through preliminary type practices, one of the first topics that was brought up, and it just lays a map like where we're going. It's nice to know where we're going. It's weird to just drive around the country, not knowing where you're going. Be all willy-nilly. So our mind the nature of mind, it's just the clarity. Our mind is by nature pure and clear, like the sky, and has vast potential. Our greatest potential is to become enlightened, completely free of everything negative, fully developed in all positive qualities and able to benefit all beings. However, the pure nature of our mind is temporarily obscured, like the sky on a cloudy day. These obscurations include the delusions, ignorance, greed, hatred, and so on, as well as obscurations to omniscience. Imprints of ignorance that cause things to appear incorrectly. Obscurations are not permanent aspects of our mind, but can be removed, just as clouds can disappear, leaving a clear sky. However, we need help to accomplish this. It's not something we know how to do intuitively. Long ago, the Buddha discovered a way to free his mind from all obscurations. Realizing this was possible for everyone, he explained the method in his teachings, the Dharma. These instructions have been kept alive for the last 2,500, I think it's more like 600 or 700 now, right? Transmitted by realized masters to their disciples, who in turn realize and transmit them. Among those masters and practitioners are the Sangha, Arya beings, who have directly perceived the true nature of things, their emptiness of inherent existence. These three, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, are the jewels that the Buddhists take refuge in and rely upon for spiritual transformation. And so, this is just kind of the first point, is from Buddhism they say that you're pretty much already enlightened. There's nothing to fix, like underneath all this stuff we do with our mind, the nature of the mind itself, luminous and knowing, it's omniscient, it's available. It's just obscured. We have these layers of stuff, and because of these imprints and karma and the confusion, we don't recognize it. And so then the question is, well, is that true or not? So you can't just say, well, I read in a book, so yeah, that's the nature of the mind. That guy down at the 3rd Street Center said so. Doesn't work like that. You have to go, I wonder about that. Is that true? And so we investigate, we talk about it, and we start to go, wow. It's very difficult to access because we have our thoughts, worries, fears, and labels, and things that arise that, have we ever been able to simply be fully immersed in just the mind itself without all that? And the Buddha said, yeah. And then everything else is about how to remove all those afflictions and obscurations. And so as you clear it out, then you kind of discover, you're already there, right? It's already there. It's our base. And so that's a starting point. And so initially you go, wow, I don't know, it sounds kind of woo-woo, man. Or we go, I don't know, there's been people doing it for, 2,600 years. People who do it seem to be more clear. Maybe it's worth at least checking out, And then you kind of see, all right, well, let's hold it as a working hypothesis over here. Right? I don't know. But are there times in my life when I'm not caught up in everything that I'm doing and I just feel good? Like you're really in flow, You're in that zone, I think is what you're talking about. Just really present with what you're doing. You're not afflicted, fully immersed in what you're doing, and you might notice kind of a bliss and, peace. And you're just like, wow, because I'm not caught up in all those labels and conditioning. And then one way to, get a taste of that is as we meditate, as the mind stills a bit, we start to have a direct experience of the nature of mind. And it's just, spacious, endless, boundless mind. And so, but it's nice that they say, well, this is the working point. We're going to try to get rid of all that confusion and know who we are. And with that in mind, that's what the Buddha discovered, said this is the way. And then Kalamitra Sutra was really good because it gets right to the point. Back in India in those days, they had all these teachers, that would wander and give teachings. And a group came out and they asked the Buddha, before he came, they met him at the edge of town. How do we know your teachings are the right ones? We have all these, people come through and they tell us this is the way and that's the way. And the Buddha said, you don't. It's not, your job is to test it and see if it works. Don't take it because I say it. It's not how that works. And I'm not here to tell you the way. I'm just sharing this. But you need to test. And so that's really core to Buddhism, is investigation and checking. And so with that in mind, it's nice to have a working hypothesis that some of these things could be helpful, given our motivation, what we'd like to get out of it. And so with that in mind, there's the preliminary practices, and this is what I think keeps things fresh. We take a moment to think about the rare and precious life that we have, this human birth that has become accessible, that we have the resources, the availability, the time, and the interest to live a meaningful life. Very few out of 8 billion humans, have come to this opportunity. There's a lot of people not doing things like this on a Wednesday night. And, this, like everything is ripened, Think about everything that had to happen over generations and centuries for us to be right here with access to teachings handed down, practice refined, translated, and made available. That literally holds the key to freedom from all samsara handed to you. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then, of course, I can put the key down and go watch Netflix. But it's so amazing. Here's the key to liberation from all things. This is awesome. We get some popcorn, watch some Netflix. I'll get on that in the morning. And so we take some time and remember, oh, right, I woke up, I'm alive, I didn't die, I can see, I can walk, I can read, the teachings are here, practices are here, I found this, it's, available. And I think that I don't want to jump ahead. And death and impermanence. May not be here tomorrow. I might not be here tomorrow. You might not be here tomorrow. Teacher may not be here. My 2 primary teachers up there, they're not in, they passed. The other ones are getting a little long in the tooth too. So, and you go, okay, well, they're not always going to be around.
Dalai Lama keeps saying that he'll be around for 10 more years, I think. He keeps saying that every 10 years.
Well, yeah, he's always said at least into his 90s.
Yeah.
But I think he's getting his 90s.
Yeah, he's probably mid to late 80s at this point.
Late, I think, yeah. So, so we don't know, right? And our problem is we keep putting off all the things we know that are meaningful and healthy till, tomorrow. And so, but taking a little time in the morning and really getting clear. I actually record a morning practice every day except Sundays. That it's free if you guys mind. In the community, many of the people do it. And we'll spend a little time on these verses, every morning. This is rare and precious, human birth favorable, and just, and fresh commentary. You just want to bring it to life every day. It's so hard to get so easily destroyed. It's like a lightning bolt in the sky, and just, really appreciate it, and know that, yeah, we may not be here tomorrow, and other people may not be here tomorrow, so we have this day. And so really taking some time with rare and precious birth, death and impermanence, and then what am I going to do? How am I going to set my tone for the day? Yeah, and these are just the other little pieces there. Watching the clock, so pause right there. And so if we go over these topics, which basically I like to think of as an accurate assessment of my current situation. It's all here right now. It is available. I have a path and practices that help me alleviate a lot of misunderstanding, misperception about truth of what I think would bring me happiness and what actually does, which is always going to be based in virtue and doing things I feel good about instead of chasing something to make me feel good. And really just understanding this process. And so I have this day. And how do I want to participate? Then we set an intention, to be mindful. And notice harmful mental and emotional states and activities. And try to really bring the healthy ones in. We've covered these sort of aspects of those mental states. Then check in and review at the end of the day. And each day then what we're becoming is an active participant in who I'm becoming, what I'm nurturing, what is actually supporting the kind of life I like to live and what's not. And then the muscle of free will shows up. And free will is that mind and body doesn't want to do this, but I do. And mind and body screaming, we're not doing that. And I'm going, oh yes we are. Because it's healthy and it's meaningful. And we're able to do that which we know to be true and healthy, and are able to act upon it, regardless of what my habits and conditioning want to do. I get to drive my car again, the car of this human life, this experience, instead of having my conditioning, my habits, all the traumas of the past and all the attachments and things that have, wound me up. And I get to actually engage in a day that comes only once in ways that I'll feel good about when I put my head down tonight. If I were to die today, it's all right. I didn't waste it. Didn't waste today. And in that way, being a conscious participant in my own becoming. And that's, when we ground in wisdom, it's just so important to remember we're always becoming. Right? We're always becoming. We're always. And how much of our lives autopilot, and I am who I am because of so many things I wasn't consciously choosing, instead of being an active participant in that becoming. Nurturing virtuous activities, body, speech, mind, compassion, loving kindness, good friendships, good partnerships, good speech. And so much of our lives we're just victims of our circumstance and conditioning, and don't really have much awareness of why we're doing what we're doing. And so unraveling that becomes very valuable. But in order to even be there, you have to be present. That's step one, just being present more. And so the preliminaries really set you up with a nice structure to know, am I watering seeds of attachment, aversion, pride, jealousy, ill will, or reality and interdependence and care and compassion, self and others, and skillful ways to interact even with people I don't like that can be accountable without hatred in ways that are skillful and meaningful. Understanding the world we live in and how it exists. And that's quite remarkable. Because, a real typical human experience is, we actually believe we can make our life not messy. That's really shocking. The world's messy, man. It just, it's just the way it is. Samsara Buddhism is just samsara. It's a whole bunch of messiness out there. We don't know what's going to happen. And I see it all day long with others and stuff, but, I just don't think it should happen to me. And when it does, poor me. Instead of, it's messy for everybody, but everything that happens is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to adapt, to be a better human being. And, I had a little experience with messiness this morning. It's a good thing probably to wrap up on. But yeah, it's messy. I had some plans today. Laura's off in retreat, and so she, and just had friends here from the retreat. Saw them off yesterday. Dave, man, I'm in my house by myself. I wake up, get practice, I'm gonna record these things. We're on top of it. I'm behind the things. I've been away. And then I go upstairs, take my laptop, plug in, my laptop at the desk, open it up. And for any of those who do Windows, you have a little PIN number to start the thing, right? It's just a little box, you enter your PIN, and it starts, right? I open it up, and I just see going across, it's entering a PIN by itself. I didn't do anything, and it's the wrong PIN. It just keeps going, and I can't click in there. If I click in there, it's just, and so it just keeps doing it. And I'm like, I can't use my computer. I can't log into my computer. And it's just saying, I'm like, what kind of virus do I have that's just filling in the forms? And, I'm a techie guy. I got this, I'm going to go in a safe mode. I'm going to, go in, kind of reset the computer, previous point. I go through all that. And I get right to the end where you can reset it to a previous point in the computer. And it's the last button. Are you sure you want to do this? I click yeah. It won't let you click yeah. It won't go. I'm like, somebody's hijacked my computer. They're not letting me reset it. They're not letting me get in. It's, and this thing's going on. And I'm like, wow, spend some time here. And so then I get my backup computer. Gotta have two, right? It's the old one. I pull it out, pop it up. It does the same thing.
No.
Yeah, the other computer's doing the same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how's this happening? Why is this happening? And I'm trying to, maybe I can reset and then, do a little bit of research, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's across the whole Windows. Like I have a Windows account, right? They're Windows computers. And that got, the macros and that infected. So whatever account I'm on Windows, maybe it's doing this. And I'm like, going, man, so I got a third computer. A little nervous because, I don't want that one infected. But I opened it, but it was logged in, so I got in. Oh, okay, maybe I can record, do some stuff, get this other stuff figured out. No problem. And then it starts doing it. Like if I clicked on any open form, it just filled it in. So if I clicked on the web address, filling it in. This is, I could see my email, I could click on it, but if I click on any blank space, it's just filling it in. I think this is some pernicious freaking virus thing that's infected my whole Windows account. I run malware bytes. I have that on. It's open. It finds a bunch of little things and, 50, 60, and, puts them aside and go, okay, now we're good. Keeps doing it. So I've got 3 computers now. So life's a little messy, right? So I check with my computer guy who fixes stuff. I don't know if anybody's used Louis, the computer guy. He's a cool guy. But he's not available. He tells me this guy in Glenwood's available. You guys with the story so far? You on the edge of your seats? Are you curious how it's going to turn out? Because I don't know. It's pretty scary. It's weird how it's just infecting everything. I didn't even want to check my phone with the Windows account because I'm, if it's in my Windows account, I'm like, but at least my phone's working with, computer stuff. I can look up and research things. It's all getting very dramatic, And So I'm like, okay, computer guy, Louis tells me this guy in Glenwood, and I check out a store, he opens at 10. Glenwood software store.
Okay.
Yeah, good guy. He's really sharp. So anyway, but it's not 10 yet. It's like 8:30, man. I'm not getting those things done. So I do a bunch of other things I need to do, but I'm at the door at 10 a.m., man. He opens the door. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I start explaining this to him. And he goes, it sounds like your key's stuck. It's just filling it in.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, it does sound like that, right? But there's 3 different computers, like, what's the chance that the number 1 key is stuck on all 3, like filling it in, right? And so, he's this is not like a virus. He's like, viruses, they want you to get in the computer. They don't want to lock you out and stuff. So anyway, we open up both my computers. They work great for him. There's no problem. It opens up, logs in. And we're talking this thing through, He's like, yeah, I'm not insane, dude. Okay. And, but he's humoring me. And he goes, do you plug anything into your computer? I'm like, yeah, in the USB port, got a little hub, got some other devices. And he's, okay, what do you got? Oh, like a wireless mouse. He's thinking maybe the USB thing's shorting out and just doing that. You can do glitchy stuff. So he's, okay, you got a camera, you got wireless mic, and then I'm all, oh yeah, and I got this little 10 keypad. With like the little numbers that you can do on the side, like 1 through 10 and all that. He goes, that number's stuck. In other words, I kept plugging each computer in to the hub, and it had the little key point, which, because Rachel was staying the night in that room, I shoved everything back in the desk. And this little keypad had the 1 button pushed. And it just fell in everything. So that was half a day. Bright side is I didn't have a virus.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's just really sharp. He's just humoring me. So there's this keypad that was way in the back of the desk area that was pinned. Yeah. So anyway, life can be messy, right? We can have little plans, and the thing is, today it's like, well, that's just the new thing. This is what I'm doing today, rather than it's an inconvenience. Yeah, okay. What do you do next? Try to fix this. Okay, eventually call Louis. Louis says this. And then I did get to go to Natural Grocers on the way to Glenwood. Got some potatoes. I've been looking so forward to that. And I got to see Betsy, who was down at Natural Grocers. So anyway, Rachel, you'll be happy to know I got sour cream and a baked potato today. So I know
That's what I was wondering.
And so the journey is how much, like, we could have turned that same thing into like the worst day, like I had a lot of things didn't get done, some things didn't get done. People called me I didn't expect. And our mind could be like, all of this is thwarting me from what I want to do, instead of everything that's being done is helping you be a better human, and discover some other people. This computer guy's a nice guy, and meet people and engage in the day. And the quicker we can adapt to reality, as opposed to this attachment to all the things that I think needed to be done, versus what are we doing, And now I got a call from Larry. Are you on here, Larry? Well, anyway, let's just say his evening yesterday made my little computer thing nothing. And but he's alive and he's okay. But what happens is we'll actually think that these are inconveniences, or why me, or this. But life's just samsara. And we're not going to fix all that, but we can fix how we engage with it. And so the good thing to wrap up with is the really wonderful saying in Shantideva is we can't cover the whole earth with leather, and make it smooth. There's thorns and rough things. You can't cover the whole earth with leather, but you can cover your feet, and then you can go anywhere. And that's kind of this whole thing. How do I develop myself to engage in all of this in ways that allow me to be free from all that suffering, instead of thinking all of you and all of those things need to change for me to not suffer? Get some shoes, sandals, maybe some chacos. I don't know. Stop doing the chocolate thing. More of a flip-flop guy. So, things evolve. All right, so we're going to leave it there. And so the encouragement then is to not skip the preliminaries. That's the whole point, right? Is as we're moving through the preliminaries, this rare and precious human birth, the incredible day that comes only once, impermanence, and then, karma, like what are the qualities I really want to grow? Cause and result. We need to create the cause to have the result. If I want to be peaceful and more clear, I need to do things that allow me to be peaceful and clear, and meditate and, cultivate the heart. Then I can be that. But it's weird to think I want to be peaceful, clear, and have a good heart and do a bunch of stuff that doesn't create that. I want to do all this other stuff, But I really like to be peaceful and at ease. I don't want to do all that other stuff that gives you peace. I just want to do this other. So just, noticing that and then doing the things that actually give you the result you'd like. In the evening, having that nice review. So in the text, then, I'm going to encourage people to go through those preliminaries. You can read through those. And then we'll pick up next week with If I Don't Die or You Don't Die, and we're all here. With this next stage, getting into the intermediate section of the path. Sound okay? All right, let's go ahead and just take a moment to be in this moment. And those who'd care to, I invite you to join me in dedicating this time and energy, this wisdom and merit that we have cultivated for the benefit of others and for our own continued spiritual growth. And there's so many things that we can be doing in life, and taking the time to come together and support each other and cultivating our hearts and minds, explore ways to be helpful and kind to ourselves and others, and see how we can be of benefit. That's a great deal of merit. And so here we have the opportunity to dedicate all of this for the benefit of all others, that they may benefit from our time together, that the seeds of these teachings grow and flourish in the world, that we're able to make a difference, and for our own continued spiritual growth, that we can ultimately remove all the obstacles that prevent us from seeing our ultimate Buddha nature and recognize our full capacity, so we can be truly helpful to others. And for those who care to, can join me in the dedication. By this merit may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.